Hey everyone, and welcome to another Yogi Misfit Sessions. My name is Danny Pomploon, and I am your host. Not sure how you guys are feeling out there, but it is finally feeling like winter in San Francisco. And normally October tends to be like super sweet and beautiful, and it was for the first half of the month, but starting this week, I can actually feel like it's cold. And those of you that are on the East Coast, I know it's colder, but I'm in San Francisco, so I'm not really used to the cold. Today we've got session 95. I've got Jacob Manning on the show today. He's an awesome yoga teacher based out of Orange County. Really cool, powerful story. We've actually ended up becoming buddies just because we ended up bonding and we're doing a retreat together next year in Portugal. But he had a pretty rough time, before yoga, kind of like I did, with some substance abuse. And, it was just very similar parallel stories. But anyway, he's awesome dude, really great to have on the show. He had a lot of really good insight as to how yoga and the work got him to where he's at now. So yeah, it's great to have Jacob on the show today. I wanted to remind everybody that we are still running that donor box campaign. So we are trying to get the show to sustain itself. And the show really does just get love and support from you guys. So for all of y'all that are still sticking with us, thank you so much. It's been such an honor and a privilege to host the show and to produce this content out there. You can make a donation using the link below, or you can head over to iTunes and write a review because it helps just as much. And we'll continue to produce really awesome content for you guys. Much love to my friends over at SF Yoga Magazine. And without further ado, here goes session 95. Jacob, you're officially the third person that I've ever talked to in person on the show.
Oh, yeah.
How do you feel about it?
I feel pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here in San Francisco.
I'm super stoked you're in San Francisco too. Although when this airs, it's going to be definitely way after July. But that's all good.
That's fine with me.
So we were sitting here. First, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Second, we were sitting here tossing around ideas when we were talking about like what we were going to talk about and what was important to talk about the show. And we did talk about a lot of really good concepts, but I want to dive into, what made me think about it is like the amount of time that you spend in your own personal body. I can tell, like I can see that you have a practice. I can see that you've done a lot of physical work to actually get to where you're at and to do the things that you want to do. And I feel like for me, like me personally, where I'm at in my journey, my practice doesn't look like 2 hours anymore. It doesn't look like vinyasa class after vinyasa class. A lot of it these days ends up being a lot of sitting, a lot of breath work, and a shit ton of journaling. That's what I really call like a self-reflective sadhana practice. I do it every day. So I want to talk about the concept of self-practice. I want to talk about the concept of sadhana and what it looks like and what it doesn't really look like. What is your theory on home practice?
Being consistent with doing what you've learned that has you have been able to reflect on your day and even like your health and where you're at and with your body and have some awareness within the body. So it could be different for everyone. Like you said, you journal a lot. I've had my ups and downs with journaling, being consistent and inconsistent, and sometimes being consistent and inconsistent with movement and meditation. And I'm human, I'm not perfect, so things are constantly
yeah. You're human?
I know, I'm human, believe it or not. So things are consistently changing for me.
What is your I guess, do you have like a consistent routine now in your home practice?
I try to keep my practice, like there's always stuff in it changing, like whether it's meditation or there's usually a focus though, and it has to do with usually with my goals. So with where my goals are at, that's where my focus of my practice is at. So if my goal is to be really strong, then my practice is going to be really focused on strength. If it's on flexibility, it's going to be on flexibility. If it's on enhancing and enriching my relationships, it'll be on writing. If it's increasing my vocabulary and being able to communicate, I'll read more. So that it does have a lot to do with change. And usually when I notice that I'm struggling with, or that my emotions are getting kind of in a whirlwind and kind of going up and down, then that's what my routine will start to go towards.
Whatever is kind of having turbulence, or whatever is kind of being shaken up.
Yeah.
What do you, I guess when you go through this like goal setting process before we're dialing back before even the home practice part. When you decide that you're going to make these goals, is it something that you have like a list of certain things, or it's just depending on life, you're like, okay, I think I might need to focus on this area some more?
Yeah. So I could take you all the way back to the beginning.
Okay.
When I first started teaching, I literally came up with goals that I wanted to achieve in 5 years, and they were to be a Lululemon ambassador, and the second one was to teach a workshop. Another one was to teach at Yoga Works. Another one was to be able to press handstand. And the fifth one was to not drink and use drugs for a year.
Okay.
So those were like 5 goals that I set, and they all felt like maybe tangible. And I don't know the exact order they came in. Probably the press handstand came first, but because at the time, like the strength was the goal I was focusing on the most. Mm-hmm. So then I was able to achieve those goals, and yeah,
So it sounds like you just kind of put your mind to it, and then you make it, you do what you got to do to make it happen. Now, when it comes to like your home physical practice and you're working on goals, do you have like a set schedule of like every day you wake up and you start, physical practice there, like for an hour, or you go to the X, Y, and Z like studio classes, or is it just like when you have free time, or what does it look like what does your home practice routine look like?
Okay. So I'm an introvert, and I learned that over the years.
Okay.
I would go to classes and studios, and this is where we'll get into the home practices, and I'd sometimes feel a little bit tired in the day because of being around a lot of people. And so now I practice more by myself and on my own, and it allows me to have a little bit more energy for when I teach.
And do you have like a set schedule like of when you do it, or it's just like whatever?
It's whatever. Sometimes it's in the morning, sometimes it's at night. Like like I told you earlier, we were talking today, once a month I don't fall asleep. Yeah. It's always one time a month. There's always that one day I can't fall asleep. So I'll go in my living room and lay on blocks and roll my back out and open up my shoulders, and that's what I'll do.
What does it look like when because I know like I fall off home practice all the time. What does it look like for you when you start to fall off your home practice? Is it because something is happening in life, or do you just get lazy, or like what's happening normally?
Well, there's a couple things that'll happen. One is like the TV remote will get stuck in my hand when I wake up in the morning, and so that can happen. My hand can slide over and grab that remote, and then grab my phone in the other hand, and I got both, and I'm messing around with both, and that right there is the number one thing that can pull me out of practicing and waking up and being excited about my life and like how blessed I am to set my own schedule to go where I want, when I want, and have that freedom. And that's a gift. And my gift sometimes can take me away from the freedom that I have to have that home practice.
To do the thing that you're actually supposed to.
Right. Yeah.
Instead of binge watch Netflix.
Yeah, for sure. They got some good shows coming up too. Jesus.
I feel like for me personally, like sometimes I'll get in these like work holes where like I'll be like, I'll focus on like a project or whatever. Like I'll focus on like, for instance, like a retreat, like, we have ours coming up in April, and for a while, I was sending you text messages like just every day being like, okay, I think we should do this. And I think we should do this and blah, 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 blah. And I'll get so wrapped up in my organization brain that I'll forget to get wrapped up in like the, I got to take care of Danny brain. And so I'll just go like head on into a project and sometimes skip eating. Sometimes I'll skip like, even just small things like remembering to hydrate or whatever, because I'll fall into just a really bad work hole. Like, and then it takes me a little bit to like come out of it, or I'll start to realize that I'm feeling, I don't necessarily call it burnout, but there gets a point where I get a little bit irritable, and I do this like little check-in. Like if I was a kid, I'm like, have I slept enough? Do I have to go to the restroom? Have I eaten enough? Am I happy? Whatever it is. And then I'll realize, oh, I've been working for like however many hours straight, or however many days straight, or, I've got a training and a workshop and and a retreat and and I haven't taken any time off to like check in. And that's normally when I realize, oh, okay, you haven't done, the home practice is all about taking care of you and learning about you and like having that time to reflect in your body and be in your body. And it's a nice slap in the face to be like, okay, pump the brakes on the work thing. That's always going to be there. And I know I can always do that and fall back on that. But if I don't take care of myself first, like it's going to suffer at some stage or point in doing the thing that I'm doing.
I call that the garden.
The garden.
The garden. So we all have a garden and different flowers in the garden.
Yep.
And one flower, the rose, can be your wife, your husband, your girlfriend, your significant other. The tulips can be your physical body. And so like different flowers can be different things. And I feel like everyone who's a human being,
right,
can obsess on one flower while the other ones then start to die. So then we don't feel like whole and fulfilled inside.
Right.
And that's where it comes when you're talking about business and work and like obsessing and really just going after it.
Yeah.
Full board.
Yeah.
Get out of my way. I'm gonna run you over. This is
totally
what I'm focusing on, this is one thing that I'm focusing on, and then all of a sudden these days start to go by, and then it's like, wow, like I feel kind of lost.
Right.
Because these other things that are making us feel whole and complete aren't being taken with love,
right,
like attention, like work and business. I can get really obsessive on that. That's for sure. And then all of a sudden, like my girlfriend doesn't think I love her and it doesn't feel like she's important and I'm not paying attention to her. Or even like I can go a while without talking to my parents and my friends, and just like I'm all of a sudden ghosting things because I'm so focused on this, which is doing really great.
Right.
And, it's uptrending or whatever it is. It's accelerating, but these other things are digressing and slowly dying.
Yeah. How do you find, as a being a yoga teacher now versus when you weren't a yoga teacher, do you feel like your practice has suffered a lot more or it's gotten better? Because I feel like, and this is, we were just chatting about it before, but I feel like there are a lot of yoga teachers out there that don't practice yoga. They're not necessarily doing the thing. I think that for them, it's turned more into a job versus something that they actually enjoy doing. And a lot of yoga teachers will make that excuse, well, I can't really practice too much because I have to work all the time. But I think that just goes on like time management, like what's more important. If it's important to you, you'll find a way. And if it's not important to you, you'll find an excuse. So what do you feel like for you as a teacher? Has it made you practice more, or have you found yourself being like, no, more excuses to not do?
Becoming a teacher, has it made me want to practice more?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
It's made you want to do less.
It's changed.
Yeah. How so?
It's been volatile.
Okay.
So when I first started teaching, I would practice more than I practiced ever when I wasn't teaching. And as soon as I started reaching these goals and achieving these accomplishments that I set for myself, that I saw no one else was really going for, and being able to see very few people reach the goals that I also set, like those 5 that I said earlier. I set more, and then as soon as like I reached those, it's like, wow, I'm like, there's always like this bit of like addicted to chasing something or whatever.
Sure.
And then the practice or whatever is not getting there's not like that fuel behind it, and that fuel is important. So the way that I've been practicing a lot more lately, because I get to see how I feel when I don't.
What's your advice to the teachers out there that aren't practicing but are teaching?
What is my advice?
Yeah.
You should probably practice if you're going to teach.
Why?
Because then you might feel like a phony.
I don't think people really care about that. I think people just want to do it because it's the thing to do, and because they want to have a following, and because there's a sense of validation up there. And I also think that there are some people that do want to do it, maybe have different circumstances. But I feel like, I don't know, it's just yoga has changed so much, and I think that what we value in yoga and what we value as teachers and even what we value as students has really changed. But I do think that there is something to be said about teaching from a place of knowledge and being able to understand these things in your body because you have worked through them mechanically, or at least have attempted to, and you can speak to them, I think says wonders. I think teachers that are teaching from a knowledge base that they don't have, I agree with you 100%. I think it's 100% phony. And I think it's not only unfair for the students, but I also think it's unfair for them as a person as well. Like, I think you're just cheating yourself.
Yeah, it's a big responsibility to if you're going to teach, to do it from a place that, you're really taking care of yourself in that way of what you're teaching. And so, and also keep your students progressing and growing and learning. So that's important that we practice it and are doing the same thing, and we're practicing what we're preaching.
How can you tell when people aren't, like you were saying earlier, how can you tell when teachers aren't practicing?
Because you can see what they've done and then what they can't do anymore. And if they haven't gotten hurt, that's how you know that they're not physically practicing,
right?
But you don't know if they're doing their writing, or if they're doing their reading, or, if they're doing this or doing that, and that their practice can change. But I really think that the yoga practice is so physical, and that it's really important that that's something that you keep, because, there's mind and there's body, and then there's this mystery of spirit. So mind and body, it's important to take care of your body, and that's really necessary.
What's your philosophy on why the body has to be so taken care of or strong?
It gives a sense of like confidence and like self empowerment.
And you think people that don't maybe are missing out on that opportunity, or that it's just a thing that they should experience?
Yeah, and like anytime you can get like you really breathing in that like you if you've practiced enough yoga, the power of like when you're breathing and moving, and like you get into that moment where nothing else exists, and you just feel like your whole body's vibrating, and then all of a sudden the rest of the day you feel really good. So why wouldn't you want to do that every day?
Right. Yeah, that's true. What about, I guess, I'm thinking about how, my practice isn't so vigorous. A lot of the practice that I do is really slow, and it's super mellow, and it's super chill. And I'm lucky if I do, like, I force myself to go to public classes these days, because otherwise I won't give myself a kick in the butt. I'll just kind of chill and go pretty mellow. But I think it's, as I'm talking this out loud, my excuse is that I'm too busy with the other work stuff, because I end up drawing more attention to the project side, versus the actual project side and the asana side as well. I think, what do you like? I find myself in ruts where I like get, lost in doing the work, and to re-inspire myself, I'll have conversations like this, or, my one friend Christy and I on Fridays, we normally hang out at her place, and she's got a little studio, and we'll sit there and we'll work together. And then like one of us will complain and be like, I gotta move. And so we'll both get up and like someone will call out some poses, or we'll move together or do some handstand drills or whatever it is. And then we'll stop, and then we'll get back to work. And then someone else will be like, all right, I got to move again. And then, we'll get up and start doing things. So I think doing it by myself has just for me lost a lot of its charm, because it's really lonely being a teacher. A lot of times I know you can understand, and even the home practice, although I love spending the time focusing on me and really, tuning inwards, that even then can still kind of get a little like, okay, well, here we go again, me, myself, and I. You know what I mean? It's fun to play with others. And so I'll find myself like, checking in with certain friends, or, having conversations, or going and co-working with people, and like going and practicing with friends, and, making friend dates, yoga practice dates. Do you do any, like, when you feel that your practice is getting like in a rut, or when you feel like it's lost a little bit of its spark, or it's, its fire, what do you call to, or what's your go-to to just reignite that flame?
Go to class.
Yeah. And just drag your ass to class.
Yeah.
But even then, like there's just still something innate inside of you that says go to class. Yeah.
Yeah. And if the excuse is I'm tired, I'll drink a whole pot of coffee if I have to. If it's, that's about it. Like the only reason I wouldn't want to like really go to practice or whatever is if I'm like tired.
Yeah.
And if I'm tired, then I won't want to do. Then I can drink coffee and go.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like even right now, I'm kind of tired.
Right.
So if I was gonna practice, I need a little coffee right now.
We should probably go get coffee.
You know
anyway.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that's a really good question. It's like what you said is really humble. Like that's coming from a really vulnerable place to be sharing that to whoever's listening to this right now, and who's going to listen to this when it's released.
Yeah.
But for the most, like, and for me, like I have this. Sometimes I have the same hard thing too. And like it really is a son of a bee when you notice you can totally
say bitch on the show, by the way. Yeah. We could say fuck, bitch, ass, anything.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Can we start this over? Fuck. Okay, no. But when you practice and there's all of a sudden a pose you can't do anymore, and you're like, shit, and you kind of beat yourself up and like, what the hell? Like, what? Like, I need to start practicing more. And then all of a sudden, like, there's this like ego that comes into play.
Yeah.
And I think it has a lot to do with ego of like, okay, so I started practicing to be able to do this stuff. And now that I can do it, like, what's the point of practicing to do it? Well, there's a whole lot of journey to still go. And I think everyone who does yoga still is at a place of not knowing anything much about it. And that's the truth. There's so much, like, there's so much to this existence as a human that we're using yoga as a tool to get a little bit more in touch with that.
Yeah.
And guess what? One of the learning lessons that we continue to learn is what we've just been talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is okay, so I start teaching yoga and I'm practicing a bunch, and then now I'm really focusing on, wow, I want to be able to share this with so many people that I'm now not practicing as much myself. Why is that? How can I balance this out and create this tranquility and like being consistent with practicing? And is it going to a bunch of classes? Is it downloading like an app to practice with a teacher? Or what is it that I need to do? I need to do it in the morning. I need to do it at night. How can I keep this consistent, this fire as I get older too? To keep practicing, man.
Yeah, and no matter what, too, even with injury. And I busted my shoulder a few years back. I had a labral tear, and I remember going to this class and like just pretty much halfway giving up and like getting ready to like walk out. And the teacher was like, "You all right?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's just my shoulder. I don't think I'm going to be able to do it." And the teacher was like, "What's wrong with your legs?" And I just remember standing there being like, "Fuck." Do you know what I mean? Because the entire time I was like, I can't do this. My shoulder's busted. I can't raise my arm above 90. I can't do this yoga class. I could have easily not done any down dog, any chaturangas. I could have stood at the top of my mat, jumped to the side for warrior poses, pull the leg back for, warrior one family stuff, and still worked all the lower half of my body and my bandhas and my pranayama and everything else that goes with that.
Your drishti, everything.
And instead, the first thing that I did was, I can't do this. I have this injury. And that was like one of the biggest teachers. I ended up like going to public classes and standing for the entire class, wow. Doing all standing. I practiced for like 6 to 9 months like that without doing any down dogs, without any planks, without anything. I just stood at my practice started at the top of my mat. I did half sun salutations, and then I brought some blocks and did some leg drills while people were doing other stuff. And then I would get down and do all sorts of crazy core work because I could do a shit ton of core work, and I did all kinds of crazy leg poses, like anything that I could do that was, reachable for let's say like any standing poses, and I can make it more difficult by lifting a block underneath or whatever it is. Yeah. And my standing poses got so much stronger because of it. But meanwhile, I had this this little voice in my head being like, no, you can't do it because you can't do everything that you wanted to do. I just ended up learning a different way to practice.
Yeah.
It doesn't end, and I don't think that the intensity, has to go like the same. It can back down a little bit when you get injured or when you get older or whatever the circumstances. I think that, what you said was like the consistency part is absolutely key. Like if you don't stay consistent with it, you lose it. And if you don't lose it, it's like reading and writing and, like two really amazing skills. But if you don't practice writing, you lose the skill of writing. Like you lose that creativity. If you don't practice reading, you lose the joy of reading. You lose your vocabulary getting stronger. You lose, I was kind of half joking when I said earlier, but those who don't read end up going, a little bit kind of, unkept up with what's going on and with yourself and knowledgeable, you kind of just let your brain almost rot.
For sure.
And I think it's extremely important just to stay consistent with it, like the thing that I have trouble with is like, I work a ton, and, between running the podcast and all the other stuff that goes with it. So I try, to make time for home practice, and I just haven't done a great job at that. So it's like, okay, well, what do? Do you work less? No, I got to pay bills. Right. But if you don't continue to take care of your body, you're not going to be able to keep doing the thing for as long as you want to. So yeah, I don't know. I just find it interesting. We can make all these right now. I'm like in my head about all these excuses that I've given myself.
The wheels are just spinning. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. This isn't a game. There's no do-overs.
All right. So someone comes up to you and says, Jacob, I'm brand new to teaching. I just graduated teacher training. I'm teaching 10 classes a week starting tomorrow. What do I do to start a home practice and to stay consistent? What are your top 3 tips, or this is a great place to start or to pick up or whatever?
Dude, that's a hard question, man.
I know.
3 tips to give someone who's new to teaching to keep their practice. I'd say keep your practice or you're going to hate your job.
Yeah. Yeah. I also think that it's important to check in, reset, and get inspired, and sometimes like as a teacher or as a student, if you're a student that keeps going to the same teachers or whatever, maybe you try out a new teacher, or maybe you go to a workshop, maybe you get nerdy for a weekend and find out about how your shoulder works and what it's doing, and if you feel like I don't know about you, but anytime I have gone on retreat or do a retreat or whatever, I always just feel so rejuvenated. I feel like there is this sense of reset, and not just reset, but you're immersed in the yoga for, a week or 5 days or whatever it is. And it gives you permission to just tune back into yourself and to reignite that passion, So that's the other thing, whether you're a teacher or a student, recognizing that and taking time out to check in on that. And then maybe finding something like a workshop, a training, a retreat or whatever, that's going to spark up that fuel, that's going to reignite that fire.
Yeah. The times I've almost felt lost, the best investment I made at that time is going to a class where I don't know the teacher. I'd never been at the studio, and it's just really cool. Yeah. No one knows sometimes no one knows who I am. that's changed a little bit over the years. But I remember when I hurt my knee. I had knee surgery. I was like, oh my God, I don't want to go. I've lost all my strength and flexibility. It's been 9 months. I just want to meditate. And that's all I want to do now because it's what I do and I love it.
Yeah.
And that was a good thing I got from that. However, it was hard to go back to practicing, even though I was kind of excited. So sometimes I go to random teachers and random places and learn things I've never heard anyone say before.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I feel it. Well, Jacob, I, for one, am excited to practice with you this weekend and to co-teach with you and to do that. I mean, it's also really dope to do the show in person. It's always so much more fun than just sitting behind here and talking to myself into a computer screen. But I'm also pumped that we get to hang out together for a week in April. We're going to frickin' Portugal, man.
Oh, yeah.
How you feeling about it?
Dude, like I told you earlier, some of the best things ever is to go to places I've never been to before.
Yeah.
And I've never been there, so I'm really excited that I've never been there. And the other thing is, there's some people coming that came on the last retreat. Yeah. So it's cool to just kind of continue to build this, even this thought of this 1 year occasion where we all get together and have a really good time and you see that face, and it's like the new family vacation almost, but you're having a really productive time. Yeah. Rather than a total free for all and you don't know what to do, and sometimes it's going to be, I'm really excited. I don't mean to keep elaborating so deep.
Totally.
Yeah, I'm really excited, man.
Yeah, it's a great way to build more community, and also, I mean, the place that we're going to is beautiful, and the food looks amazing, and the beaches look just insane, and even the little town. I think we're gonna have a great time out there.
In the room too.
Oh my God, yeah, and the outdoor deck.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna have nothing but a good time.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. That's why I connected with you.
Super stoked, man. Well, thanks for coming on the show today. Thanks for sharing your wisdom. It's good to do this in person. And for those of you listening in, you can check out the show notes below. Jacob and I are going to be hosting. We've got our retreat coming up. We have some other cool stuff in the works. Yeah. Stay tuned for some top secret things, trainings and workshops and more retreats. But it's super top secret. So yeah. All right. Well, until the next Yogi Misfit sessions, this is Danny and Jacob saying peace out.
Peace.